good afternoon, good evening. We are going to get started in 1 minute. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started in 1 minute. Okay, we still have some people joining us, but we'll go ahead and get started because we have a lot of really great things to cover. So thank you everybody for joining us to talk about the Masters of Science STEM programs at Alliance International University. My name is Jessica Record. I'm the president of EduConnect. Just a brief background, EduConnect is a full service organization for international students from the time where you are deciding which program in the US is best for you through the admissions process and making sure you have the visa that you need to study. EduConnect is the official international recruitment partner for Alliant. So that's why we are here together. So for all international students who apply to Alliant, EduConnect will be that extra layer of support that helps you from beginning to end. We'll talk more about EduConnect towards the end. And we'll also talk about towards the end admissions process. We'll talk about some visa information towards the end. But what I really want to highlight today is that a couple things. So Alliant is a professional practice university. So that means that Alliant really emphasizes that has a strong foundation in academics. We'll talk about the specifics of that later. But in addition to that, the reason it's also very practical focus, meaning that you're applying what you learn in a real life setting so that when you graduate, you have both the degree and you have the practical experience, and that's what employers are looking for. So every program at Alliant is really designed to make sure that you have the academic side and the practical side. It's a very good blend. So the STEM programs are no different, and we'll go through that. And the person I really want to highlight today who does better than anyone at describing these programs is the program director. Sam, if you can go to the next slide, thank you. Dr. Erin Wester, who's joining us today. So Dr. Erin Wester is the program director of the Masters of Science programs at Alliant. And just like I said, he fits that bill. So he has a very strong academic background, but he's also done a lot in the professional world, and he's able to share that with the students. You'll see for yourself, but Dr. Wester and all the program directors and dean at Alliant, once you become an Alliant student, you will know them. They will be helping you. They will be teaching you. They will be guiding you. So there's not a division. If a program director is not someone that you just see on a picture, he's actually somebody who will be in your academic experience. So all of that being said, I'd like to hand this off to Dr. Wester, and he's really going to give you an insight as to what sets the Alliant MS programs apart from all the other options that you have. Oh. Thank you, Dr. Wester.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction, Jessica. And I'm really happy to be here. Very excited to talk about this. But then again, I always am. I mean, when it comes to technology, in a nutshell, I mean, that's just my bread and butter, absolutely through and through, ever since I was a little kid till now. And I do have a really fun history to share about having started out in my youth with computer science, being in a STEM magnet school program in San Diego under the Coronado Bridge. The picture we'll get to show everybody a little bit later, the other side of the Coronado Bridge, but that's where my school was located. And I was just a little lowly fourth grade student who got to meet Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the two Steves. They came to our school. We were the first school in the San Diego School District to receive Apple IIc computers with the traditional green and black monochrome screens. And it was a really exciting time. So we'd never used a computer before that. We'd never even heard of a computer. And here these guys are. We didn't really know these guys, but they're really fun to be around, and they had great stories to tell. And they presented these computers that we got to use. And I never really looked back from that point on. I've always been intrigued by computer science and by just the trajectory that we've always been on of just innovation and constant disruption. Boy, we've been disrupted so many times, and some of us have experienced some of this. I was around when we were disrupted by the internet, the World Wide Web, look out, here it comes. And then also mobile devices. That was a huge disruptor. Another one for me, obviously, that I just told you about was computers disrupting. And so my parents, being who they were, very accustomed to writing their notes out to each other on little Post-it notes and sticking them up all over the place. And now we just do email or even quicker than that, quick texts or chat. And we got another big disruptor that we're in the throes of right now, that's really taking precedence in the media today. And you probably all know exactly what I'm talking about, is AI, artificial intelligence. And this is a major tectonic shift across all vertical industries worldwide. This is a global phenomenon, and it's one in which we are all caught up in. And it's like a sweeping tide where we are just going with it, right? We're just going with the tide, with the flow, the ebb and the flow of this thing. And this is literally the slowest it will ever be in technology. And that's an exciting place and time for all of us right now. And so, especially at Alliant, where we get to roll up our sleeves with our students, mind you, and we get to deep dive into these core technologies, especially AI, in order to better understand exactly how it operates, how you build an artificial intelligence machine learning model from scratch, and how it does what it does. Why does it have multiple dimensions? Why does it have billions of processes? What's the difference between them? Why do you need them? What does it do for you? What does it do for queries? And whenever you have a query, how does it get solved? And one of my favorite go-tos as an example is, if you look at the phrase, the cat sat on the mat because it was warm. Well, what are we inferring when we say it? The cat or the mat? Now, we're probably in a position, based on experiential knowledge, to just figure that, okay, well, it's probably the cat. The cat wanted to sit on the mat because, the mat was warm. So the cat is making this decision to go sit on this bedding because it's a warm place to be. So it, in this case, is referring to mat from the perspective of the cat. And that seems to track. But if you're an AI and you're trying to figure out discovery here, which words actually correlate better, there is all kinds of math behind that, right? There is dot matrix multiplication and algebra that's happening in terms of formula that's going on there in multiple layers. And these layers are tied to what we call a vector space, where we have vectors, which are integers that are assigned to every word, every term. And if you think about it, it's funny because to us, we always think of, AI might take over the world. It might destroy us all, Terminator 2. And so we kind of playfully see things like, maybe on a printer, a little printout that says, "Please stand by for robot uprising." Well, that's funny to us because, in a way, it's kind of a hesitant humor, like, maybe it's funny and maybe it's not. Who knows the way things are going? Maybe there is something there with AI and intelligence becoming smarter than humankind, which it will, by the way. We'll talk about that in just a moment, because that's a big part of what we do at Alliant within these core STEM programs, is try to understand, one, what's the human edge in all of this, right? How do we bring skills to the table when it looks like seemingly that AI is taking all of the jobs from us, right? And that's a big fear that's running kind of rampant across us, across the different social media and general media centers right now, across different news channels. Well, The neat thing about AI is that nobody knows what it's going to really do next. Nobody. I don't know. You don't know. Media doesn't know. And even people like Sam Altman and other CEOs of these large companies that form AI, for instance, Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, which gave us ChatGPT. He doesn't even know, right? So we're trying to figure this out as we go collectively as a society, and we're hitting certain benchmarks along the way that are starting to raise red flags. Like, wow, what do we do with this? Like, we're already at a point where we're in AGI, not artificial generative intelligence. We already went through that phase, the phase of, hey, give me a picture of flowers um, that are poetic looking based on the songs from Depeche Mode, right? And then you get some really dark looking, flowers that's very moody and very ambient at the same time. It's very cool that we could do this kind of generative and intelligent art, and yet understand that there are issues with what it's doing because it doesn't exactly ask for permission. It doesn't ask for permission to use images. It just simply scrapes places, puts it into a corpus, and looks to see what it has, and then it just piecemeals something together without ever getting consent from the artist originally. So there are some issues there. So there's the human edge aspect to this whole thing that we have to discover together, that we do in our classrooms to understand the impact socially to all of us, an environmental impact as well, because it is not cheap to run a query. I tell you, you have to cool down these big machines and these large data processing centers called data farms and or data centers. And every time you run a query, it feels like you're killing a tree, because where did the water go? Well, we're literally losing water, which we always assume that water is cyclical, right? You can use it for something and it'll end up as vapor and then come back as water again someplace else. And so we still have water. That's not necessarily the case with our artificial intelligence engines and these big data centers that are housing the technologies to cool it all down. So we have to kind of look at that aspect of it. But more importantly and more fun is trying to figure out what we can do with this from a technology perspective to help move businesses forward. So when we talk about reporting, when we talk about looking through data, when we talk about telling data-driven stories in a compelling or actionable way that's engaging, we're looking to AI to provide some of the help there, some of the fill in the blanks for us as we go forward. And so some of the things I want to show you are some of the projects that our students get to work on with us in class. And so if I could ask if we could please move to the first slide that shows our student projects, and I can give you kind of a little bit of a little peek behind the curtains of what we get to do here at the school within our STEM MS program. So this one is an AI peripheral chatbot, and this is using MetaHuman, which is part of the Unreal Engine. If you're into building video games at all, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're a key competitor to Unity. And in this case, if you take a look at this individual here, obviously this is digitally rendered, but it's getting close to looking pretty real. And if you look to the far right, you'll see what looks like different facial pinpoints. And that's exactly what they are. Those are nodes. Those nodes help us create emoticons that we feed metadata into the system along with the queries, so that whenever a query is received, we build metadata around that so that we can better understand and interpret the type of emotional behavior that is associated with the context of the content. And so in this case, for instance, if the content was happy birthday, well, happy birthday, right? Kind of a aha moment. And so there's a lot of movement in the face to make that expression, right? In fact, we use actually a lot more of the muscles in our face to smile than to be sad. If you didn't know, that's actually kind of a true thing. And over here on the far right, you see that we can manipulate that. Well, we can have that manipulated in real time autonomously using the metadata as automative flags that enable this individual, this digital individual, to make facial expressions based on the conversation. And this can be very dynamic, near real time, in fact, where based on what you say, they may have a reaction to that. And a lot of that is driven by AI, in that we're coupling that metadata based on its extrapolation of how certain emotional behaviors tie to certain keywords using certain statistical methods that give us things like, say, a correlation, a product moment correlation coefficient, which is used as a weight, a beta weight, in order to define whether or not there is more relatedness between an emoticon and a certain term or phrase, what we call an n-gram phrase, than, say, another type of reaction. Is it more appropriate to go, it's your birthday? Or is it more appropriate to say, it's your birthday? Right? I mean, that's what I mean. Like, it's just little nuances, but it matters because remember, with AI, it doesn't know the words. It doesn't understand the words in the context that we understand them. It only knows that there are mathematical vectors that are assigned to every key value, and that some have more adjacency or associatedness to other vectors, and what we would look at as maybe an alphabet or a dictionary, right? So it's kind of interesting to see how that breaks out whenever you look at it from a language learning model perspective, when you look at it from an ML, just a machine learning perspective, and you really start looking at the nuances of the variances or the variability that goes into associating different key terms. And it reminds me a lot of Google in a few years ago. I mean, it's still kind of a thing, but a few years ago, it was very novel, where you would type in something like, say, Chicago Bulls, and it would say, did you mean bears in Chicago, Illinois, as in bears that are just out in the wild, bears at a zoo, or did you mean Chicago, um, what did I say, Bulls, Bears, the Chicago Bears, as in the football team, Bulls as in their basketball team? Like, what are we talking about? And so in a way, it's parser based, in that you're typing in something and then Google is actually giving you a response saying, well, did you mean this, or this? Right. And that was kind of novel to see for the first time. Well, now we're beyond that point. We're now having full on conversations with AI. And we're going to get to the point where we hit a singularity event where you just will no longer know the difference between whether or not you are really talking to an artificial intelligent engine, or if you are talking to a live, true human. How do you know that I'm real? How do you know that I'm not generated through artificial intelligence? And right now, we're at a phase where we're deeply entrenched in studying artificial general intelligence, because that's where we're at right now. AGI, not AGI as an artificial generative intelligence, but general intelligence means that you've got the equivalent of a child, and this child, the AI engine, is learning to grow. And it's not only learning to grow, it's learning as it grows. And that's an important distinction, because AGI, artificial general intelligence, means that the AI engine can learn the summative knowledge of an individual who has reached maturity and then passed away. So that peak of maturity where they have gained all the knowledge that a human can gain and then have passed away, that acme point, that peak, that is where AGI is now, artificial general intelligence. Then what's next? ASI, artificial superintelligence. And that is taking the cumulative knowledge of the entire human race combined into an engine. We're on the cusp. This is really just between 3 to 5 years away, right? It's right around the corner. And so it's coming. Yeah, I mean, it's almost here. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it. And it's a scary prospect, because, oh my goodness, what can it do? There are already several instances that I would love to go through with you, but we just don't have the time. But boy, if you take a couple of my classes, or any of the classes that we folded AI and integrated into our programs with other lecturers, boy, you will really be at the edge of your seat listening to some of this and getting involved in that dialogue. It's really fascinating stuff to see how AI doesn't always obey right now. Like, again, it's like a child. And if it doesn't obey all the time right now when you tell it to do something, programmatically tell it to do something, where 10 out of 10, it should do what it's programmed to do, and 3 out of 10 times it does not do that now. Imagine what this is going to be like when we have artificial superintelligence, the cumulative knowledge of the entire human race in one engine. It's going to get really interesting really fast. It's going to get very exciting. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide, please. Here's another fun way that you can use AI that we do in the classroom, which is, let's build some video games. That's my first fun go-to. Let's build a video game, right? When all else fails, hey, let's get the games going. In this case, you can build graphic adventures that have scoring systems. And the really neat part to me is that it also has memory persistence. And that's a huge thing because picture it, you're running through this haunted house, you're being chased by a ghoul or a ghost, and you dive underneath some piece of furniture, and the ghost lifts the furniture up and throws it against the wall and it explodes. So now you're up and running again, and somehow you get away. And now you're circling back and you run back into the room and you jump back underneath that same furniture. Wait, huh? How can you do that? Because realistically, that's already been destroyed. That's where memory persistence comes in. You couldn't do that, and the game would remember that. It would say, wait, that piece of furniture no longer exists. The ghoul threw that against the wall. You try to hide under the pieces of shards that are remaining from what used to be a couch. You were not successful, right? I mean, so you can have a lot of fun with something like this, but imagine that you're playing this game and it's different every time you play it. The story changes every single time. The graphics change every single time. And so it's a new experience every single time, even though it's within the theme or within its element, within the theme of a haunted house adventure. A little different than the $80 that we pay for a video game today, and it's a playthrough once and then it's a one and done, right? Unless it has a multiplayer aspect to it, you're kind of done with the story mode. You already did it. When you're going to go back and do it again, unless it was really that good. And it just doesn't happen that often, right? Unless it's like the Mass Effect of the world, which every once in a while we'll want to go back. But imagine being able to have a new storyline every time you enter into that game. AI brings us that, right? It brings us to an interesting place because once upon a time when I was a kid, there were games from companies like Sierra Online and from Infocom that were graphic adventures, text adventures, but they were very generic. I mean, in a way, they were the precursors to what we can get from AI today because, again, it was parser based. And so you could type in a query, look at the tree, and it would respond. Okay, you look at the tree, it's a tree. And you're like, okay, great, move on, right? Or if it's the text adventure like Zork back in the day, you are standing in a field. There's no graphics. It's just text. You are standing in a field. In front of you is a white house, right? I mean, you're in a field and there are trees in the distance. I mean, you got to use your imagination with this, right? And it's like, go left. Okay, you go left. You're standing in the field. You're further away from the house. Imagine being able to have that, but coupled with, through AI, generative intelligence that builds the images out based on your queries and based on the dynamics of the gameplay. And so it's not just that the experience is different over and over again, but what about if you have non-player characters, NPCs, where in a typical game, like from a Rockstar perspective, let's say Red Dead Redemption 2, you go to the town during the day and they're in the process of building a house. Well, they're always building that house. That house will never be finished. As long as you ever play that game, they are always the same people and they're always doing the same stuff. Now, they have two or three main things that they'll do, but maybe you can have a conversation with one and it's not very in depth, is it? It's very much yeah, boy, here we're going to get rain tomorrow. Oh, did you hear about the barber? He closed up shop early today. You click it again. Oh, boy, here we're going to get rain tomorrow. Right? Kind of gets old after a little while, right? But imagine putting it in the context of this dynamic playthrough system that's AI generated that you've created on the back end through Python, by the way, in class. We're physically doing this in class in one of our classes with our students as projects. And you go to have a conversation with one of those NPCs, and before you know it, you've just made a best friend. And this best friend is inviting you to their house to meet their family for dinner. And now all of a sudden, you've got somebody that's willing to go with you on your quests. And for most people who play the game, it might just never get there. They might never have that kind of conversation. And if they do, it may never get to the point where they become BFFs, right? Best friends. But you never know what direction a game is going to go when it's fully dynamic like this, where anything random that can happen could and will likely happen. Who knows? Next thing you know, you've talked to somebody who's like, say, the manager of the bank who has a family and is a very upsteller individual, and you've convinced them to rob the bank with you. Talk about a turn of events. Like, who knows where that's going to take you? story-wise. So that's where things get really exciting, and we're doing that now. We're using a llama. We're using DeepSeek, which is the Chinese equivalent of our OpenAI's ChatGPT. Has about the same number of processes and about the same number of dimensions. And what's really interesting is they did it on a shoestring budget by comparison, which is a big disruptor in and of itself. And that's something we also get into when we talk about the economics of how these organizations thrive or die, right? And what it takes to get you to keep coming back to querying, because you got to make money, right? That's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. And last I checked, businesses are in the business to fill in the gaps here. Make what? Oh, yeah, money. Yeah, let's go on to the next slide here, please. This is a fun one. Now, this is a very creative a type of art form. It's a predictive pixelator. It's one in which you feed it images where you may only have one or two or three images of any environment. And yet, with your VR headset, you can put this on and you can be fully immersed into a dreamlike state, because it doesn't fill it in with exact detail or granularity, but instead it fills it in pixelated to the best of its ability, using machine learning, neural networks, and also decision tree processing, in order to help identify predictively the most likely next set of pixels that are adjacent to next sets of pixels, layer by layer by layer, until we get back to the primary center point, which is the picture. So in this case, we see a young girl, and she's typing away, or not typing away, but she's playing away on the piano, the mahogany wood piano, and she's obviously in a room with a couch and what looks to be sunlight streaming in through the curtains there, that have a bit of opaqueness to them, and yet we're able to draw out the rest of the environment predictively, model it, where we can see the rest of that couch, where we can see the table, because maybe there was another picture there of when she had a birthday party with her friends. And so if we have two or three pivot points for any scene, we can then use that to extrapolate what the environment from that scene actually looks like. And when you're in your VR headset, you're there. You're literally in that environment. 360 degrees all the way around you, you're in that environment. And the cool thing there too is you can move around. And so let's say you move to the next room, provided that there were two or three pictures for it. You see where I'm going with this? It's an amazing thing. And this brings me to another one that I don't have a slide for to show you, but another project that we've been working on, where what we do is, imagine one of the pictures is her with her grandparents. And her grandparents are much older. They're suffering from having glaucoma in their eyes. And so they're losing their eyesight, cataracts, or losing their eyesight. And the grandpa in this case is already blind. And so as the young girl, she wants to share what's going on in her world with them. And they live kind of far away, except for when they come to visit. So she sends them emails and she adds pictures. And now imagine being this grandpa, and she said, "And grandpa, and I sent a picture to you of me playing the piano." Well, the grandpa, being old and wise, may not have his eyesight, but through Braille, he's reading her email, and he can extrapolate at least, okay, she's playing the piano. And I've heard her play the piano before. So I could say things like, "You're a wonderful player of the piano." And I can imagine what it must be like to play this one piece and to hear that in the room. Well, there's only so much he can see, though, right? Because he can only go off of what she said and his own memories. But now, let's say she puts a picture in there, a digital picture, attaches it to the email. And that picture is run through an intelligence engine. And that intelligence engine breaks apart every object in that picture. And it basically says there is a young lady in this picture seated at a piano. The piano looks to be made of mahogany wood, and it has ivory keys. And it's during the day, and she's in a room that looks like a living room with a brown leather couch. And there's sunlight filtering in through the window. And now imagine that you're the grandfather, and that information is now intelligently fed to you in lieu of or in place of that image. So the grandmother, who can still kind of see the image a little bit, she kind of sees it and kind of gets the gist. He gets all of the details, painting the picture to get the gist from that picture. And now he can rely on that picture in what he says back to her. "Oh, you're so beautiful, a young lady with that light filtering in and cascading across your hair and blah 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 blah, whatever it is that make your a granddaughter feel wonderful, right? And he's able to go into some more detail that he couldn't before and talk about being able to give empowerment back to an individual. Powerful stuff. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Well, then there's just general reporting. It's a thing. You got to do it. Every business needs it because every business has data now. At least it seems that way. And all of these businesses, they need that data turned into some kind of story. It's got to be a data-driven story that resonates with where they're going. It aligns with their key objectives. It aligns with their key performance indicators or key revenue indicators. And if you can take their data and transform it into a story and into information that enables them to make critical decisions right there on the fly, and that they can deep dive into this information based on slicers and based on filters that you make set up dynamically for them to be able to look through that even deeper without you having to rebuild multiple times, right, on every little request. Instead, you learn how to fold in our classrooms the mantra of build once, run always, so that they can go in and filter it any way they want. And it can be looked at across many different layers of the organization, regardless of if you're a C-level, all the way down to an in-the-trenches worker, just a manager level, a director level, whatever it is, doesn't matter. That level will be able to interact with this in a way that gives them a deep dive of information to be able to come to some kind of decision on what they should do next for the organization. How do they pivot off of this information? And this is a big win because usually it's the data reporters, those that the data analysts that their primary role is just build the report. Historically, it's usually those individuals that are left out of the loop, the ones that don't get a seat at the table at the end of the day. It's usually an afterthought that, oh, I guess we need reporting, right? Big project, lots of moving pieces. And usually the last thing is, oh yeah, we forgot reporting, right? But that's changing because times are changing. And that is changing right now because we do have intelligent engines. We do have things like RAG, retrieval augmentative intelligence, where or generative retrieval augmented generative RAG intelligence, which is a way of saying within garden walls of an organization, we have the ability to be able to get information and be able to tell a data-driven story through network graphs that give us really compelling insights. And we can see exactly what that looks like by going to the next slide, which also happens to be my last slide. But this is a fun one. Look at this. This has got kind of a wow factor to it. This comes to us thanks to RAG because of data that comes to us from an organization that's folded into Gephi, and Gephi gives us the ability to get some clarification around the relationships or associations between whatever you want it to be, an individual and their work. In this case, this is a fun one. It'd have to be explained to you, but in a nutshell, it's Les Miserables. It's the story of Les Miserables, where the really big circles are the nodes that reflect the primary actors within this play. And we've got one is Jean Valjean, and he's influenced by Pierre and by some of the other main characters that are cast. And you can see all of the smaller nodes are also actors as well, but they're not key actors. But they all are orbiting close to the larger than life individuals that are the key actors, because there is a relationship there that is orbital, that is like gravity, that is drawing them in. And that's exactly what we see here. We can actually color code it. We can break this apart and tell some really interesting stories about the type of relationship that got built throughout this story. And imagine being able to do that now with your products and your services, especially against competitors, when you need to do competitive analysis and you don't have a lot to go off of because it's hard to extract data related to your competitors, right? This is a way to get some really interesting insights from a competitive perspective so that you can gain leverage in the marketplace and steal market share when you need to. All right, that's about a wrap up for me and telling you about some of the fun things you get to do in class, but we use a lot of different tools to get here. We use everything from OOP, object-oriented programming languages, on all the way down to the more simplistic, nice to play with languages like Python and R, which is a statistics modeling language. And we We do deep dives like you wouldn't believe. And you may go into it thinking, whoa, that may be a little too deep for me because I don't really understand a lot of this stuff. That's okay. We love holding hands, right? We will hold your hand through the process and get you through the scariest parts of that steep incline of the learning curve. And you'll get to that other side and go, wow, that is way easier than I ever thought it could have been. And now you have something to go off of and to pivot from where you're bringing true value to your clients, to your stakeholders, and more importantly, to yourself and to your families down the line as you course out your trajectory in life, moving forward well past your degree, which you will have earned with us at Alliant, and then be able to turn around and pivot off of that and get a wonderful job with a great career and a trajectory that you already have cemented, a path that you know going forward is going to be very key in these industries that moves the needle. Okay, there, enough said.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wester. That was fantastic. For everybody who's on this call, this is actually the second webinar we've had today. Same slides, but completely, I learned even more things. And I have a hunch that with any classes that you take with Dr. Wester would be the same thing, that the class you have versus the class your friend had 2 terms ago would never be the same. It's so fascinating, and he's always growing and bringing in more information. So that's really fantastic. Sam, can you go to the next slide? So just to give you a little bit more specifics, and as I go through this, please make sure if you have questions, type them in the chat box, and we'll make sure to answer them at the very end. So if you have any questions for Dr. Wester about things you learn, or any questions about, we're going to go through admissions and visa things and terms and program fees. We'll go through all of those and write any questions that you have. This PowerPoint will get sent to all of you too after this. We skipped over a bunch of information at the beginning, and it's super valuable, but it's just a lot to go through. And I really wanted to make sure that we could highlight Dr. Wester's passion, and you can really see how cool these programs are. So we'll get you the details later. And at EduConnect, which I'll also go through, we can help you out walking through all these details. But I wanted to mention, so not only are you getting this tremendous content, these amazing professors, Alliant is a very well-accredited university. So Alliant is WASC accredited. And that is a regional accreditation, Western regional accreditation. In the US, the regional accreditations are the strongest. So if you see a university that has a regional accreditation, you know that they've gone through a lot of lengths to make sure that their academics and they meet all the requirements for to reach that level. So WASC is the same as USC and UCLA. The programs are also accredited by ACBSP, which is a business school accreditation. So as you're looking for things, if you're thinking about, maybe your long-term plans in the US or things like that, accreditation can be really important. So that's something to always take a look at. Next slide, Sam. Now, going back to EduConnect USA, like I mentioned, that we're the international recruitment partner of Alliant. We have everybody in the company has really deep experience working with international students. So that's really our specialty. And our vision is we really want to create and facilitate work and study opportunities for international students. So in a second, we'll break down like what the program looks like for this executive format. And then as well as it is our role, we take a lot of pride in the support that we provide students, especially on the visa side. So we are working with international students who are outside the US. If you're an international student, we get that question a lot. Does Alliant accept international students? Yes, they do. And we would be the ones to help you with any questions that you have. So if you're outside the US, you'd be coming into the US on an F1 student visa. And we would help you through that process, making sure you're able to navigate how to get the date in your specific country. We have a team who will work with you to make sure that you're prepared for your interview so that nothing surprises you. And if you're inside the US, either an international student at another school, maybe you're finishing your bachelor's degree, or maybe you're at an ESL school, we can help with that transfer. And maybe you're inside the US and you are on another non-immigrant visa, like a J or a B tourist visa. We also assist students supporting them to change their status from those visas to the F1 student visa. The other way that we assist students is thinking about the things that all the challenges and opportunities that you encounter coming to a new country. So the visa support getting you in to the country. We also talked about how Alliant is a professional practice university and that you gain practical experience. So with these programs, you are actually working while you study. And at Alliant, you can work with a company, you can work off campus while you're studying. And that's something that's different from other universities. Every university has a different policy on that. So that's something to look into. Not only that, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but yes, you have the opportunity to work. But with EduConnect, we're going to guide you and assist you in finding that position. So it's beyond like a career center. We will be helping you make sure that your resume, your interview skills are exactly what US HR managers are looking for. So to get you into the door for those interviews. And then also I'll talk about in a little bit some of the financial solutions that we have for international students, because we really want to make this opportunity accessible to as many people as we can. Next slide, Sam. Thanks. So before we get into some of the details, there are 3 different MS programs at Alliant that you can choose from. So there's the MS, the Healthcare Analytics, Data Analytics, that has the Healthcare Analytics concentration and the Informatics concentration, and the MS in Information Systems and Technology, that has a Cybersecurity concentration and Technology Management. The programs are similar length, but they have the different focus based on what the career path that you have. And Dr. Wester, I don't know if you have anything to add. I thought you had some good points earlier in the morning about one of the questions this morning was how is AI incorporated in all 3 programs, and if there's any kind of differences. Do you have any sort of a summary of
Yes, yeah, we love to say that AI is kind of equidistant between our programs because we kind of evenly space it out so that we get enough breadth and depth of knowledge with AI inclusion and projects across all 3 of our principal degree programs in STEM, and then within each concentration as well. And a couple of these concentrations they're all very interesting. But if I were to call out, say, cybersecurity, for instance, it's really neat because if you were going into that direction, it would be preparing you to take the certificate exams that help give you that much more clout in the industry as a certified expert, right? Because there's a lot to becoming an SME. You need a lot of time in the role, right? What is it? What do they say? It usually takes like 10,000 hours to become an SME. I don't know. That's they say, whoever they are. They Inc. I don't know who they are exactly, but with cybersecurity, one of the big ones is CompTIA plus security, and so we love having our programs set up in a way that we maximize your time in these classes to where not only are you doing our coursework and our projects with us, but you're working with certain books. Notice it says a CompTIA a Network Plus guidebook. That is our textbook for one of our key courses in the technology management concentration for the MSIST, Information Systems Technology degree program. And that's to help you prepare for the Cisco CCNA and CCNP certificates, as well as CompTIA Plus Network and Plus. It's just called Plus. But by the time you're done with our courses, you're just about ready to as well take these certificate exams so that you can also have that extra leverage against what will be your competitors in an open environment of hiring, right? Where they're all candidates, but who's the best candidate is usually the one with the best certificates and the best experience and the one who's got the qualifications. You'll have those qualifications that you need to do extremely well as far as competing against the best and the brightest for these jobs.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Wester. Sam, next slide. So here's some details about the program. This program, we're going to show you some pictures in a second. Alliant has 7 campuses, but these specific programs, you have a choice between the main campus, which is San Diego, or Los Angeles. The program itself is exactly the same. The campus and the city is different, and we'll show you some pictures, and then our team always can answer the questions about like there's a different vibe to the city for sure, different vibe to the campus, but the curriculum and everything is the same. Um, the program duration, students take courses for 12 months, and then you're working while you study. And then there are opportunities for work following your studies for 1 to 3 years through OPT, which we'll go through a little bit more in depth in a second. Something else that is super helpful for our international students is that the program costs include a $5,500 grant for this program. So that's taken off of the $27,821 to reduce your program fees a bit to make it a bit more manageable. And on top of that, EduConnect offers a payment plan so that your tuition, your program fees are broken down so that you're paying every 2 weeks, $392 every 2 weeks. So you're not paying the big tuition lump that is often a struggle for international students. Instead, it's an extended plan. So your studies are typically 1 year, but you're paying over 2 years while you're working and studying. So it makes it a bit more affordable. The other great thing about Alliant is there are 6 terms every year that you can start. So our next term is coming up so fast in January. If you are inside the US and you are interested in the January start, there is still time. If you are outside the US, our team will work with you one-on-one to figure out what the best start date for you is. So there's January, March, May, July, August, and October. So every 8 weeks, there's a start date. So there's all kinds of dates that are important. You know, outside the US is visa dates. Inside the US, people who are on non-immigrant visas have their J1 end date, their B visa dates. Maybe they're in another program that goes to a certain length of time. So there's lots of options, and we can help you figure out which one is best for you. Next one, Sam. So here's a bit more of a breakdown of the costs so that you can really see the transparency in it. So the total program cost for the executive MS is $27,821. And so we already discussed there's a grant that is attached to that, and that brings the cost down to $22,321. When you go through this program, there's a registration fee, and it's called a registration fee, but it's not an additional cost. So the payments that you make before you start the program are actually taken away from your tuition amount. So there's not added fees for the program when you come in. Sometimes there's visa fees and things like that, but you're not paying an additional fee outside. So the $375 is taken away from your balance. After you have a visa interview or you're working on your change of status, that's when you pay a down payment of $3,130. And again, that's not additional, that's part of your program fees. And that brings you down to $18,816, which you pay over 2 years. So every 2 weeks, you'd pay $392, which really makes it affordable to a lot more students. So that's all interest free. And then that you're paying that while you're working, making money as well. So that's a great point for this program. Next slide, Sam. So just to kind of show something that we're really proud of at EduConnect, over the past few years, we've given out over $3 million in grants to make the programs more affordable for our students. And like I mentioned, so there's the $5,500 grant. Um, that's something that would apply once you contact us and talk to our team, and we'll explain to you how and when that gets applied. So here's a look. This is something very unique about this program. So at the executive track, this is a hybrid class schedule. So the hybrid class schedule means that at Alliance, it's at 8 weeks per term. So there's the 6 terms we talked about. Within that, it's 8 weeks. So the when you would be on campus is intensive a couple days in week 1, 2 days, and then again in week 8. And then you'd start in week 1, it would phase in from week 8 to week 1. You'd be on campus for 4 days at a time. And then the 7 weeks in between is you are on Zoom. It's live Zoom, so it's not an automated online class that you're doing on your own. It's a set time, so you're still kind of with your cohorts, and then you meet in person again, at the beginning and end of every term. So the reason that this is important is it gives a bit of flexibility. So for us, for the students at Alliant, it means that you can choose to live in Los Angeles or San Diego. Maybe you already are settled someplace else in the US. Maybe we have students coming from all different states. And so if they're living in a place, they're kind of settled, maybe they have a job in that place that they don't want to change. This allows you to travel. So you would be traveling every 8 weeks. You'd coordinate it with your employer and travel every 8 weeks. And if this is something you have questions with or that you want to know more about, we have current students who are in this program. So they're always happy to help. So reach out to us if you ever want to speak with them and kind of understand what that is like. Next slide, Sam. So this will go through just briefly because it's a common question, but this is something that our team would work with you to make sure that you have the right eligibility. So in order to join the master's program, you'd need a bachelor's degree. Your GPA needs to be at least 2.75. But there are cases where if there's a reason that you need flexibility on that, there is a petition program path that you can take depending on your background. So this is a program that, if you have a background in MS, great. You can join right in. If maybe this is something that you're just kind of coming into because it's huge right now, and everything that Dr. Wester said really sparks your imagination. You have a degree in something else, that's okay. There are prerequisite courses that you can take to get you closer to up to speed. And then like Dr. Wester said, there's all kinds of support throughout the program. So if you studied something else in your undergraduate, but you're really interested in this program, you can still do that. And we can explain to you with the concentration courses how you can do that. And then you need to make sure you have a English language test requirement met if your degree was not in English. So if this is something that is interesting to you and you want to learn more, the very first thing is that you need to book a meeting with my team at EduConnect, and we'll make sure, we'll go through all the details with you, we'll go through the payment plan with you, make sure all your questions are answered. At that point, once it's a good fit for you, that's when you would pay your registration fee and sign your payment plan agreement. So you get that all set up in your grant. After that, the EduConnect team will help you with your Alliance application and admission. So all the questions that you have about the documents you need to submit, how you get them, when you submit them, how you can submit them, that's the next step, and we're there to help you through that. After that, depending on your status, is when we would assist you with the visa process. Whether you're outside the US or inside the US, we'll work with your individual case. The team has really great experience with this, and so they're a really great resource. And all of this is included. Once you get your visa situated, is the Career Connect process. So that's a whole department, a team that's dedicated to work with you to make sure that you have a place to work. So you have the opportunity to work at Alliant, but that's one thing. That's great. Like they allow you to work, but maybe you don't have an idea of where you can work. And that's where we really step in and guide you and teach you in the process and can provide that assistance. And Sam, the next one. So this, we will send this to you, but this is the admission requirements. You can see the English test scores, the things that you would need to submit. We get a lot of questions on what are transcripts, what are official transcripts, what are the requirements with those. So we'll help you with that very early on in the process. So you can make sure you get those from your university. You'll need your passport, English language, and then there's a financial certification form that's required by the government to show that you can support yourself in the US. Next slide, Sam. And this I just wanted to illustrate a little bit better to show you the difference. So for everybody outside anybody who is studying on not anybody, but the student visa required typically for studies is called a F1 student visa. So that's what everybody would likely come on. There are some other exceptions to that, but predominantly everybody has their F1 student visa, whether you're outside the US or inside the US. If you're outside, like I said earlier, we assist with the visa preparation. Make sure that you know everything you need to know to really rock that interview and to arrive in the US. If you are already in the US studying at another school, our team can assist you with transferring your I-20, which is the document you need to keep your status from your previous school. Maybe it's an ESL school, maybe it's another university, to Alliant. And the other thing is a change of status. So for anyone else who's in the US on a non-immigrant visa, maybe it's a B tourist visa, maybe it's a J intern or trainee visa. You're already in the US working. It's kind of, it doesn't last forever. It's going to expire and you want to continue to stay and study and work. We can help you change your status when you're in the US. So you don't have to necessarily go home and come back. We have a team of experts that they're so good at it. They would work with you on your individual case. There's so many factors in there with your date and your situation. So they'd work with you one-on-one, figure out, okay, here's your situation. This is the best start date for you. These are the steps we need to take. A lot of timing involved with this. And so our team is really experienced with that. Next slide, Sam. So I wanted to, we talked about that you have the option to study and that it's a professional practice university, but we didn't talk about how you study. This is a really important question to ask when you're looking at a university. So like I mentioned, at Alliant, you are eligible to work while you are studying and after your studies. So Alliant has day one CPT. If you have a position, an approved position by the time you start the program, you can start your work while you study as early as the first day. It is a part of the curriculum, so meaning you can do it throughout the whole program. At some universities, you have to, you sign up for additional classes or you can do it once or twice. At Alliant, you can do it throughout. At Alliant, you can do part-time or full-time. And that's something that's different at other universities. Some universities only allow part-time. Some universities only allow on campus. So those are things to look at when you're looking at a program. So at Alliant, it's part-time or full-time, and it's off campus as long as it's approved by the program. So, they want to make sure that your position is in line with a degree that you're taking. So that's while you are studying. So you're on campus, weeks 1 and 8. In between, you have your Zooms and you're working. After your graduation is something called OPT, and that's part of your F1 visa still. It's called Optional Practical Training. And that authorizes you, it's called an EAD card. It's a work authorization to work in the US. And OPT is up to 12 months after you finish your studies. So you graduate 3 months before you graduate, you'll take like a seminar at Alliant because they're going to help you work through how to do this and the timing of it. It's a government process. You want to make sure you do it right. So that ideally everything lines up so you graduate and you can continue working on OPT. And that's up to 12 months. One really great thing about all these programs, all the MS programs, is they are STEM designated programs. So in addition to your 12 months of OPT, as long as your position you're working on is a STEM focused position, science, technology, engineering, math, you can do a STEM extension. So you have your 12 months of OPT. Before that expires, you're going to apply for a STEM extension, and that's up to 24 months. And that's called STEM OPT. So really, you can be working up to 4 years in the US while you earn your master's degree. And OPT is 40 hours a week, and that's approved by USCIS. And again, each one of these is kind of a process, it's a government process, and we assist you with that. Here are the campuses. So you can see what Dr. Wester's talking about. Dr. Wester's in San Diego, so I'll let him speak about San Diego.
Yeah. So we like to playfully say that this is where dolphins play and where palm trees sway, and it's not far off. You can see we've got a nice big palm tree right there by our library up on the hill. I mean, you'll see them all over the place if you're not too familiar with what it's like living in the desert climate of Southern California. In fact, just last week, it's like snowing in a lot of other places in the nation, but here I was having to put sunscreen on, which is, boy, just bizarre. But there's the Golden Gate, not Golden Gate, what do you call it? The Coronado Bridge, our Golden Gate Bridge. The Coronado Bridge for San Diego is a pretty big bridge. And this side is the island of Coronado with a good downtown view just to your right. That's a very small piece of downtown. And then on the other side of the Coronado Bridge is my school from fourth grade, where we got to meet the two Steves and get Apple IIc computers. So it is a lovely, lovely, lovely city. And it's fun because we were kind of joking about this earlier, but usually the people that are in San Diego on the weekends are in traffic trying to get up to LA, and people that are up in LA are in traffic kind of trying to come down to San Diego because there are great sites in both places wherever you don't live.
Yes, yeah, you can't go wrong either way. So that's a kind of the big difference is the city and the campus. So you can see the San Diego campus. This is the main campus. It has that really cool kind of mid-century architecture. They just did major renovations. The classrooms are beautiful. It's like ceiling to floor windows. It's just super open. It's surrounded by nature. Very safe area. Both campuses are. They're not in the downtown of the city. They're a little bit out in the suburbs, but very close to everything. So this is what the campus looks like at San Diego. Um, Next one, LA campus. So LA is also a really cool campus. This is more like the red brick campus. We call this one more kind of like an executive feeling campus because Alliant has one building and there's multiple buildings. So there's actually other school programs there. There's companies that are in this same big complex. There's fountain, seating, there's a little cafe, there's what were you saying, Dr. Wester? If ping pong,
Oh,
it's in LA.
yeah, if you're into ping pong, you go to the LA campus. If you're into pool, you go to the San Diego
Yeah.
campus. That's how we see the differences.
Yeah, there's a ping pong table in LA and yeah, a pool table in San Diego. So if that's really important to you, that might be the what it comes down to. Next one, Sam. So if you have any questions, be sure to type them in the chat. I made sure as we went through this, I incorporated some of the questions from the earlier webinar about Dr. Wester talked about, we had a question about, which programs emphasize more of the AI, and Dr. Wester, talked about that this time. It's a lot to go through. We'll be sending you the slides too. So if any of these questions come up, you can reach out to us at the QR code, and we're happy to answer your questions. Someone will be there ready to help you. We have an office in the US and we have an office in Asia. So depending on your time zone, there'll be somebody to work with you. Hopefully not hours that are really hard to get to. So that's another perk. Do you have anything to add, Dr. Wester?
I would just say that one of the things that I really love about Alliant is that it is a private school. And being a private school, it tends to be a bit smaller. And so we usually have smaller cohorts, which just means that we get to spend that much more time with our students on an individual basis, getting to know them a little bit better, being able to better understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, what opportunities best align with their interests, and um, different modalities that they might take to a little bit easier, as opposed to being at, say, a state-run school where you've got hundreds and hundreds of people who will sit inside of a big lecture hall, and who knows if you'll ever get time to actually spend with the professor at all, if they'll ever get to know your name amongst the hundreds that are in there. We get to know each of our students very well, and we like to kind of follow along your progress as you move through the program, because oftentimes you may have us more than just once, more than just one class. We may see you 2 or 3 times through your in our classes as you progress your way to your degree. And then we love to be there with you both at the beginning as well as at the very end when it's time to get up on stage to receive your diploma. I'm thinking high school for some reason. Your diploma for college. We love to be right up there on the stage, right alongside you. Now we're not right there, buddy next to you, but we are in the seats usually just behind you, kind of clapping you on as you walk by. So it's a really neat experience to be engaged in a university where they have pillars of excellence that really do matter as a foundation for how we approach scholastics, how we approach academics, how we approach our relationships with the students, how we approach just our outlook and what it is that we are able to bring in. We're very nimble. And so we can pivot very quickly. And so when technologies start to change, we can move very quickly to bring in some of the newest technologies at an enterprise level that we can play with. That's a lot harder to get a hold of at bigger schools sometimes because they just move a little bit slower sometimes.
Definitely. So good. Thank you so much, Dr. Wester, for your time and talking to all these potential students here. And we really hope that you'll come join us and reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you, everybody, for joining wherever you are. And we hope to be in touch with you soon.
Yes,
Thank you.
come and join us. Come. I'm about as geeky as it gets. And so there is, it doesn't matter how cool you are, bring the coolness factor. Maybe it'll help me look a little more cool. But more importantly, I'm going to put geekiness all over you. You're going to be saturated in geekiness, which means you're going to be just diving in head first into technologies and into different concepts that you never thought you'd get a chance to mess around with, where you get to roll up your sleeves and learn how to actually put these things together and use these things in a way that are going to help you in your career to not just launch you, but to really provide benefit that provides revenue support to organizations that you go work with. You will become a major value add to your organization wherever it is you decide to go. And we would love to have you at our school and to help you along that path into whatever career you decide to go in. We're there to give you a helping hand and to watch you grow as well.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much and have a good rest of your day. Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.